Welcome back to EngNite and to the final part of our foundational series on bridging the speaking gap. I'm your host, Sarah Carter. And of course, my co-host, Alex Chen, is here with us. Welcome back, Alex.
It's great to be here for the finale, Sarah.
It's been quite a journey. In our first episode, we broke down the psychological wall of fear. Then, in part 2, we explained the science of the brain and laid out the language gym game plan for effective learning.
Exactly. We've covered the why and the how, and today it's all about the what. This is the episode where we finally open up the toolkit and get practical.
That's right. This episode is packed with the specific, practical exercises you can start using today to train your mouth, activate your vocabulary, and build real, lasting confidence.
That's the final piece of the puzzle for me, because honestly, Sarah, there was one more thing that really used to throw me off. Even when I knew the word in my head, my mouth just felt clumsy, like I couldn't shape the sounds right.
That feeling is completely real, Alex, because you've just uncovered the final clue in this whole mystery. Speaking isn't just a mental skill, it's a physical one. In fact, I like to say speaking is a sport.
A sport? I've never heard it put that way before.
It absolutely is. Think about it. Just like playing the piano or learning to swim, pronunciation relies on your body doing very specific, fast, and coordinated movements. You're using your tongue, lips, jaw, breath, vocal cords, dozens of muscles working together at high speed. And just like an athlete builds muscle memory by doing drills over and over, you have to train your mouth to move differently for English sounds.
That actually explains so much. So my mouth felt stuck back then because it hadn't been trained for the specific sport of English.
Of course. And here's what makes this sport even harder. There are 2 hidden challenges that make it unlike any other physical skill.
All right, what are they?
The first one is what researchers call the invisibility problem. When you're learning to swing a golf club or do a dance move, you can watch someone do it and copy them. But with speaking, the most important part, how someone's tongue moves inside their mouth, is hidden from view.
That makes so much sense. You watch someone speak, but you're only seeing half the picture.
Right. And the second challenge is something called L1 phonological masking. Basically, your brain is tuned to your first language, your L1. So when you hear a sound in English that doesn't exist in your native language, your brain doesn't always hear it accurately. It tries to match it to the closest sound it already knows.
So for a learner, if their brain is only wired for a sound like E, when they hear the short I in ship, their brain might just translate it as sheep instead.
Exactly. Your brain literally maps it wrong. So, even though the sounds ship and sheep are different in English, to a learner's ears, they might sound the same. And if you can't hear the difference, it becomes really hard to pronounce them differently.
That's wild. So as a learner, I wasn't just mispronouncing, I might not even have been hearing it correctly in the first place.
Right, and that's why so many learners struggle with certain sounds even after years of studying. But there's one more layer to this physical puzzle.
Oh boy, what now?
It's something called prosody. It's the most overlooked part of sounding natural. You can think of it as the music of a language. Even if you pronounce every sound perfectly, without the right music, your speech can sound robotic and flat.
Music? As in singing?
Not singing, but it definitely has a melody. Let's try a quick experiment. Say the word record for me.
Okay, record.
Perfect. Now, in the sentence, I want to buy a record, where is the emphasis?
On the first syllable, re-cord, the noun.
Exactly. Now, what about in I need to record my voice?
On the second syllable, record, the verb.
Right. That simple shift in emphasis is called stress. It completely changes the word's meaning. Now try this sentence. You're coming with us, as a statement of fact.
You're coming with us.
Great. Now say those exact same words, but this time you're asking a question because you're not sure.
You're coming with us?
You hear that little lift in your voice at the end? That melody is called intonation. It's how we signal questions or convey emotion. When you combine stress and intonation, you get the overall rhythm of English. That's the music we're talking about.
Wow, okay, so fluency isn't just about saying the right words, it's about saying them with the right music. So a learner could pronounce every word perfectly, but if they say it with the flat, awkward rhythm, it would still sound weird.
Exactly. That's why some learners sound robotic, not because their sounds are wrong, but because the music is missing. Fluency isn't just about knowing the words, it's about sounding natural. And prosody is what makes that happen.
So pronunciation isn't just about the mouth, it's also about the ears and the rhythm. Wow, speaking really is a sport.
A mental sport and a physical one. But don't worry, we're going to walk you through how to train for it.
That language gym framework is fantastic and it makes perfect sense. It gives a clear name to the messy process I went through myself. Now that you've laid out the theory, I know our listeners are ready to start their workout. So let's get practical. What's the first tool they should pick up? Where does someone even begin?
Before we jump into specific tools, let's zoom out for just a moment. You've now got the full picture, the mindset, the science, and the strategy. And now it's time to turn that into real training. So, great question. And here's the truth. Before you pick up any tool, the first thing you need is a mindset shift. It's not about drills or exercises yet. It's about how you see mistakes.
Mistakes, huh? That's where most people freeze up.
Exactly. Most learners have a perfectionist mindset, where every mistake feels like a failure. It makes you freeze. Instead, you need to reframe mistakes as data. Not I failed, but that's useful information. My brain just showed me where I need more reps.
Mistakes are data. I like that.
That mindset shift alone takes off a ton of pressure. The goal of speaking isn't perfection, it's communication. When you shift your focus, you give yourself permission to actually speak.
Okay, mindset adjusted. Now let's talk tools. Let's start with the physical side, this whole idea of speaking as a sport. How does a learner train for that?
For this sport, you need to train on two levels, the micro level of individual sounds and the macro level of speech music. For the micro level, the best drill is minimal pairs. These are word pairs that differ by just one sound, like ship and sheep, or leave and live. They tune your ear to the subtle differences and train your mouth to make the sounds clearly.
Simple, but I can see how that would really sharpen a learner's ear. What about the macro level, the music of the language?
For that, the best technique is shadowing. You take a short audio clip and try to repeat what you hear in real time, mimicking the speaker's sounds, rhythm, and intonation like a shadow.
So the learner is bypassing the thinking part and just training their mouth to make the right music. They're learning the feel of fluency.
Exactly. It helps build muscle memory for natural speech patterns.
All right, so that's the mouth and the music. Now, what about vocabulary? How does a learner actually expand their chef's menu so they don't stay a food taster forever?
The best bridge between knowing a flavor and being able to cook with it is structured journaling. Each day, when you write about your day, pick 2 or 3 new ingredients, words you encountered recently, and force yourself to use them. It lets you practice using new words in a low-pressure space.
So the learner is creating a new recipe for themselves before they have to perform it live. I like that. What's next?
Next, you want to practice creating dishes on the fly. For that, use read and retell. You read a short article, then put it away, and summarize what you read out loud in your own words.
So you're testing your ability to recall the ingredients and remake the dish at the same time.
Yes, it's a powerful combo that forces you to actively recall and reuse vocabulary.
Okay, this toolkit is starting to feel real, but let's get to the big one. How does a learner practice speaking without facing that wall of fear?
This is where you truly build your safe language gym, starting with exercises where there's zero pressure and no audience.
You mean just talking to oneself? Isn't that a little crazy?
It's one of the most strategic things you can do. It's called solo practice. Narrate your day, summarize a video out loud. It gets you comfortable with the physical act of speaking. And if you want a non-judging partner, you can use technology. Record yourself with your phone or speak with a voice-enabled chatbot.
So you don't have to wait for a conversation partner. The learner can be their own first practice partner.
Exactly. This is how you build real confidence and skill before you ever walk into a high-stakes conversation.
Sarah, this has been honestly life-changing to hear laid out like this. For so long, I thought something was just wrong with me, like I was missing some kind of language gene. But hearing the science, the psychology, the brain wiring, even the physical side, it's incredibly empowering. The big realization for me on my own journey was that it's not just one thing. It's about training the mind, the mouth, and the mood all together.
That's the perfect way to summarize it, Alex. Mind, mouth, and mood. It's the complete picture. It's about building a resilient mood by creating that safe language gym where you're not afraid to fail. It's about sharpening your mind by actively using words, turning them from things you just recognize into things you can actually use. And it's about training your mouth like an athlete, building the muscle memory for the sounds and music of English.
Okay, I know our listeners will be inspired, but what's the very first practical step? What's one thing they can do today, something small, something doable?
Great question. The goal is to start without feeling overwhelmed. So just start with one action. Here's my recommendation. After this episode ends, try the read and retell technique we talked about. Pick a short news article, just one paragraph. Read it carefully, then put it aside and just say out loud, in your own words, what it was about. No audience, no pressure. Just you and your voice. That's your first rep in the language gym.
That's such a simple, non-scary first step. It's the perfect way to begin.
Exactly. That one small habit begins the transformation. From passive learner to active speaker. From fear to fluency.
Sarah, thank you so much for breaking all this down today. You've turned something that felt confusing and personal into something clear and possible. And because it's a journey, you don't have to do it alone. If this conversation resonated with you, please consider sharing it with a friend or a colleague you know who might be struggling with this. For the longest time, I felt like I was the only one stuck behind that wall, and hearing this would have made all the difference. No one should feel like a failure just because they're learning.
That's so important, Alex. And if you want to make sure you have the tools for that journey, please subscribe to EngNite and share the series with someone you know who's struggling with speaking. It might be the one thing that changes their journey. In our upcoming episodes, we'll go even deeper into the practical side with real exercises, advanced shadowing, and ways to use tech as a safe practice partner.
On behalf of Sarah and myself, thank you for joining us for this foundational series of EngNite. We hope you're leaving with a clear plan and the confidence to start building your fluency. Until next time, keep sparking that acquisition and mastering the conversation.
See you next time. Bye.